want to show you now a new photo from Buckingham Palace that's been released this morning, taken of King Charles III with his official red box of government papers.
For more on this, we're joined by Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers, in East Sussex. Good to see you, Rusty. This is a pretty significant moment for the new King.
Well, it is. Hello, Dickie. Hello, Belinda. Well, I think this is the sort of the king in waiting has now got his feet firmly under the desk. Of course, he's had an absolutely incredibly packed schedule. He's been touring the United Kingdom. He's been making speeches not only to the nation but the rest of the world. And this is sort of the business of being a monarch. It's going through those government papers. It's attending to the business of the state. And certainly King Charles is doing it with a hugely packed schedule.
You kind of feel sorry for him a little bit, though, you know, not given that time to grieve. Straight to work.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, because it's still technically royal mourning. The sort of national mourning was going for 7 days. Royal mourning is for another 7. Of course, we saw the Prince and Princess of Wales out thanking the volunteers who had made the Windsor part of the funeral procession such a special and solemn and proper occasion, I think. But it's back to business for King Charles, because not only has he's got to get to grips with what it takes to be the monarch. Of course, there is an awful lot of things happening in the UK. You know, we've got a big cost of living crisis, a big issues with the order of the day, I suppose. There's a lot of government business he needs to be across. And I think, of course, he's still really acutely aware that the fact is, you know, he's Britain's oldest monarch. He's 73 who are taking the reins. He really doesn't have a lot of time to lose. So there's definitely a lot in his in-tray.
He would have been across every detail of the funeral. I mean, it was just faultless, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, not only, you know, the king, but, you know, his late mother was absolutely across all the detail, the complete minutiae of that detail. She knew about the songs. She was picking the people who were going to attend. And I really thought, well, you know, the fact that we've had a few days to reflect on it now is truly extraordinary. Not just the big, huge sort of Westminster Abbey centrepiece, the huge processions we saw in London and in Windsor, but the real detail about how it was only 800 of her closest staff throughout those 70 years. And I think, you know, we're all being a bit reflective at the moment.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. And since the funeral, though, there's been headline after headline. And this morning we're hearing about Meghan Markle, who reportedly was complaining about not being paid while on tour here in Australia back in 2018. I mean, that's pretty startling.
Well, it is, and I remember that tour very well because I was on it, and huge packed crowds came to see both Harry and Meghan. They were sort of treated like superstars at the time, and this is from a new book called Courtiers, which is from a good friend and colleague of mine, actually, at the Times, a guy called Valentine Lowe, who broke the story about the bullying allegations labelled at the Duchess of Sussex. And of course, we've heard an awful lot about how sort of mistreated staff were, their allegations connected to Meghan that have since been unanswered. But this is sort of another dark stage at her door, really, because if this is true, that the fact that she really didn't get to grips with royal life, she was saying that she should have been paid for doing public walkabouts of people that come to see her, it doesn't really paint her in a good light, does it? And, you know, I've said it before, I think that both Harry and Meghan are on a pretty sticky wicket now, that Harry's biggest ally has unfortunately passed away. So what the future holds for those two, I don't really know at the moment.
I think most people would think that she was getting paid, and paid pretty well for doing what she did. And this clear royal rift is just one of the issues facing the new king. I mean, what do you see as Charles III's biggest challenges, Russell?
Well, there's a few of them, you know, and I do think that there's a few that he definitely has to take on head on, because, you know, they've got the business of his family. We've seen the issues, of course, with Prince Andrew, that the poor Queen had to deal with these in her final years. The Harry and Meghan issue is definitely not going away, and certainly there'll be a lot of nervousness in the camp, especially with Harry's upcoming memoir, and that's going to be pretty, you know, throwing a few more bombs their way, I suppose. Of course, there's a big Republican movement in the 14 realms. We've heard of a couple of countries making noises about the fact that they want to sever their ties with the rest of Britain. Listen, there is an awful lot that he needs to tackle. I said about the cost of living crisis, people are already feeling the pinch. Is a monarchy relevant in the modern world? So he's got it all to do, and I think he's got to do it fast, to be honest.
Do you feel like the monarchy is as strong as it was?
Well, certainly, I think we've seen a huge outpouring of emotion, haven't we? I mean, we had the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in London and across the UK, indeed across the Commonwealth, and you will have seen it. I was fortunate enough to live and breathe it, and there was this incredible outpouring of emotion for the late Queen, and certainly Charles, as the king, as the new monarch, does really need to seize that goodwill. And I think there is a lot of goodwill for him to do well and to really succeed in the job that he's been waiting so long to do. However, there is a real big issue about being a modern monarchy. I mean, that seems like a bit of an oxymoron, but is that doable for him? Can he present the fact that he can be a king for a new age? I mean, he's been called a meddling prince in the past, but whether he can sort of do away with his old ways and not get involved in the day-to-day business of government is another thing to be seen. And but it does open up a new partnership for him and William, maybe. So maybe space.
Yeah, well, he's got a bit on his plate, that is for sure. The power of and the monarchy and power in the monarchy. Thanks, Russell. Very good indeed.